Talk Live, the third in our second series of moving into the new normal. And today we have a really exciting guest coming on the show called Rosie Barron from Aberdeen. And Rosie specialises in photo organising, ADHD, homeschooling, 4 kids, living on a farm up in Aberdeen, and is also trained and certified as a Marie Kondo certified trainer, and we're really excited to have her on board. But first off, I'm going to ask Elaine to unmute and to bring herself in too. Elaine, welcome to this week. And I'm going to admit Clara as well, your decluttering dream team from Glasgow.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I'm actually based currently in the Forest of Dean at my mum and dad's. But we welcome everybody. Clara, Elaine, how are you both doing?
Good, thanks.
Good, thanks.
So what's been happening? Elaine, tell us about your morning.
My morning, oh my goodness. Well, it's good to know a professional organizer, because professional organizers usually have a big team behind them that they can call on at any point. And by that, I mean joiners, electricians, plumbers, etc., reliable workforce. Problem with that is that all your neighbors come and ask you for their names because they know that they're reliable. So my neighbor next door is having all her windows fitted, her new bathroom, a new kitchen, and all my workmen colleagues are all next door. So the noise is horrendous. So I've been walking around the house with the laptop trying to find a nice quiet space, which really hasn't happened. So I'm going to mute if I hear any drilling or anything like that. So if you see me going off, that's why. But these guys are working hard next door. So it's always good to get a professional organizer because they've all got the right contacts.
Thank you very much, Elaine of Clear Mountain, and Clara of Joy of Space. How is the joy of your space this morning?
Good, thank you. Yeah, good. I'm enjoying decorating with the kids for Halloween. So our house is looking very colourful and a bit spooky. Yeah, but yesterday I had 2 workmen and 2 installation men in looking at the cooker, and I was saying to you earlier that unexpectedly the kitten climbed up one of the men's legs, so that was a bit alarming. He was very good about it. 4.5 months attack by the kitten. Playful attack is because the dog is away at his Borrow My Dog family, so he's got nobody to wrestle with. Fortunately, with thick work trousers on.
And did you get new net curtains? Because that was what we were chatting about last week, because the kitten had destroyed the last curtain.
Yeah, I put up the old curtains and the kitten's been swinging on them, and I got fake blood spray, so we've been decorating those, but I did buy new curtains. I'm a bit nervous about putting them up.
Have you now gone for the Halloween effect of kind of shredded curtains and the kitten's just joined in?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Well,
what about you, Zem? What have you been up to this week?
I've had the nephews stay, so we have been doing, I don't know, like normal kind of kiddie playing outside, book reading. I'm the sort of the favoured book storyteller reader, and Lego's very exciting, but they're now off with mum and dad. But what I've noticed this week is just the change in weather. Like, it has just got colder, so having to put more sort of fires on, and it's just the air. So I think there's a definite change in like my body as well, like my health. Like a wee cold sore starting to come back, and it always happens this time of year. And it's just so trying to have to accommodate the sort of the change in weather and how it's affecting sort of my body really. So I think that's the main thing for me. But I'm really enjoying seeing the autumn leaves change, and the colours, and the yellows and the greens and the oranges, and it's been superb. And the oak trees are having such a fantastic harvest this year. I don't know what it's called, there's a word for it. Every 4 or 5 years they do this sort of big harvest, and the acorns are massive. And Dad and I made some acorn coffee, which isn't like coffee. If you think of it as coffee, it's not very nice, but it's quite a nice hot drink. So messing around in the country, really.
Lucky girl being down there, aren't you? Lucky girl.
Yeah, it's very nice. So tell us about well, how's work going for you guys in Glasgow? What's happening on the ground in Glasgow?
I've been working with a client who is retiring, so that's been interesting after 48 years. And I've been also working with a client virtually who is restructuring their career. So they're moving out from a setting where it's all very affected by organisation, like into where they're going to be organising their own time and working independently. So I've been enjoying that.
Lots of changes. And how are you finding, so I've been doing a bit of sort of virtual stuff as well, and aside from myself getting a bit zoomed out, we had like a Zoom away day, which for the charity Clutter Chat that I founded, and it was just hilarious. I tried to sort of make it more entertaining by wearing kind of a sparkly bow tie and stuff like that, and Elaine was there too on this away day, and it was very, very odd, but we got through it. But it's interesting, the virtual world, as to how much it can let you do and not let you do. How are you finding, Clara, working virtually as opposed to working in person?
Well, when I'm working virtually with someone, I think I actually prefer it when the client wants to work by telephone than by Zoom, because I feel like I can fully concentrate on the words that they're saying, how they're saying the words, what's underneath the words, the pauses that they're using, because I'm not distracted by the screen and not distracted by myself on the screen. Because out of the three of us, I'm really quite shy and anti sort of being on screen. It's not my thing. So virtually, I do enjoy that, because if you can't be with the person, but I think I prefer focusing in on being fully present, listening to them. For me, that's easier by telephone. So
Clara, on Zoom, you can hide self-view. I discovered this, so you're not looking at yourself. So you can hide yourself. Okay. So you don't have to look yourself.
Okay.
Because otherwise I always found like going to the hairdressers, you know, you're looking at yourself for an hour or whatever. I know for us women it takes longer than for men. I'd be like, what, an hour? You're looking at yourself and it's a long time.
Yeah.
But you can hide yourself, which I discovered, which is a wonderful relief.
Good tip.
Yeah. Elaine, how are you finding the virtual work?
I haven't had any virtual clients this week, because for me, I've had screen time for other things, and I have a problem with light sensitivity, which we discussed in the last series with my eyes. So I've really got to watch what I'm doing on screen. So I'm wearing reflective glasses this morning because I can feel a little bit going, my eyes going a little bit, they tend to go like that rather than like this. So they get too tired. And as you said, we were at that day Zoom meeting the other day, and I've got another couple of things. I'm doing some ADHD training and things like this online. So I've not had any virtual clients this week. I've had physical clients since we met last time. And one actually, which going back to actually the tradesman there, when I went into one of my regular clients, I sort of opened the door and she sort of greeted me with, oh my goodness, I'm in a terrible state. Something's happened in my kitchen. I heard a pop, everything's blown, the freezer's leaking. So I had to be a bit flexible for that session because I'd gone to do paperwork and it didn't end up being paperwork. It ended up being, I need to get this sorted. We emptied the fridge, freezer. I got an electrician to come. We ordered a new fridge, you know, all these sort of things. So I think in our job, it's nice to have that variety, but it's also really good to have that you know, support when we go in to see people and suddenly things have changed and you just have to adapt to that. So that was one. And then I'm helping a dad organise the home and just some other just regular clients at the moment. So yeah, so I'm limited screen time this week. So yeah.
And do you find, Elaine, that the glasses help? You know, what you've done is you've kind of reduced the amount of screen time. I've certainly felt that I struggle with so much screen time, and the other week I was like, right, I'm just doing 2 hours. I said, what is the recommended amount? 2 hours. And I've really just sort of put down, and I try and do as much organizational thoughts in my head outside the screen. And then when I'm doing screen, like for this show, I'm like, right, this is my screen time today. So it's really actually making me understand what's essential, what the screen is essential for and what it's not. And for me, actually working with someone, it works really well. I really enjoy it, as long as it's in proportion and it's in balance with other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like everything, it's prioritizing. Sometimes we have to prioritize our health in order to help other people. So for me, it is that I have to give up a bit of that this week to make sure that I feel fit and healthy to go to other clients. Also looking away from the screen. So you'll see me sort of look away quite a lot, and that just gives my eyes a rest to then come back. So it's managing it, and it's learning that, because I've never really done a lot on screen till lockdown. So I didn't know that. I mean, I'd had light sensitivity, but I didn't really know that this was going to affect me so much. So it's just managing it and learning to find the best strategies to cope with it, like we do in decluttering or organizing or anything like that. What strategies work for you? So so I'm managing it okay, as long as I take breaks, wear the glasses when I need to, etc.
Yeah, we're very. Oh, go on. Sorry, Clara.
I was just going to say it's an interesting time for us all, and those tips you've just given, Elaine, will be really helpful for people. I don't know if any viewers or if you and Zen personally have had any attend anywhere NHS appointments, but I've had a flurry of them for the kids, and they're really quite tiring, because you have to make sure that your technology is working, that you're in a queue, waiting, keeping the kids engaged, and the appointments can take from between half an hour to an hour screen time, but then there's the setting up and being in a queue. So those tips are really helpful, Elaine.
Good. Yeah, we've forgotten about that, of course, with the virtual the virtual appointments, that people are having to manage things in a different way. So yeah, there's a wee top tip then.
Yeah, well, I got completely confused. I had an NHS appointment and I got the wrong week, and then I couldn't get online, and so I've had to. So it was postponed for until next week, I think. But it was quite. I mean, even for someone who is a professional organizer, I was completely wrong-footed on it. So because it was about my feet. So I was completely wrong-footed by the whole system. But I just go for sort of some persistence, and I'll get it right eventually, is I sort of live in hope for myself, really. And I think we've touched on already some really interesting points. So please, all our viewers, please do send in questions to the YouTube channel, and we'll keep an eye and we'll bring them in and try and incorporate them. We've got a really special guest coming in today called Rosie Barron, who will get in. She's based in Aberdeenshire, and she has ADHD, so that's one of the topics that we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about the National Organising Week, which is coming up next week, organised by the UK's Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers, which all of us are members of. And Clara and Rosie are also certified in the Marie Kondo method. So we'll be talking a little bit about what drew them to the Marie Kondo sparking joy techniques and how that plays out for them. And I think we're kind of ready to introduce Rosie, I think. What do you reckon, ladies?
Yeah.
We all got our cups of tea.
Get yourself a cup of tea.
My work mug. You got something? Right, cheers. Right, okay. So I am going to let Rosie in.
So while you're letting Rosie in, we'll just go through quickly who we are. If there's a few new viewers, I think possibly. So you're on Clutter Talk Live at the moment on the Clutter Chat channel, and that was founded by Dr. Zen Moffat, who is waving to you there, and our other colleagues, Clara Moore from Joy of Space, and we've got Rosie Barron from the Tidy Queue, and myself, Elaine Mckinlay from Clear Mountain Decluttering and Lifestyle Organising. And we are all professional organisers and members of ABTO, the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers. There's about 380 of us throughout the country. And if you pop onto the website to find an organiser, you will find an organiser in your area. And we all specialise in a lot of different things. So you pop in what you're looking for and all the specialists will come up. So we'd hope that you would pop along to that if you need some help. Back to you, Zem.
Well, welcome, Rosie. It's so lovely to have you in our Zoom living room. We're very excited to have you. I think when Clara suggested, and I checked you out on the website, and because I hadn't met you before until like about 20 minutes ago, but I was like, yeah, this woman's cool. I quite like her. I personally want to hear about your long distance endurance horse riding. I think other people might have different questions. So first off, if you could just tell us how's your morning been, Rosie? What's been happening this morning?
It's been a pretty normal morning. I woke up at 6 and I did like my social media and my, stuff like that. That's what I do. And then I woke the kids up and I fed the horses, and then I read to the children over breakfast. I really like to do that. It sets us up for a really peaceful morning. And then we walked the dogs and we mucked the horses out, and then I hopped on here. So here I am. The children are busy doing lessons in the house because I home educate them. But we're pretty set up with that now, so they kind of know what they're doing. Although I did pop in at 5 to 10 to just check everyone was on, to find my 2 older children cycling up and down the track and my 2 younger children. And I was like, I sent you off to do lessons. And we didn't hear. We did hear.
That old nugget.
So they are now all settled. The eldest ready to help the younger ones if necessary, and when we finish this, I'm in to help my eldest with her maths because she's doing reverse percentages. It's just, I'm really not good at reverse percentages. I can do percentages but not reverse ones. So yeah, we spend a lot of time on YouTube.
Going to have to Google what that is, because I don't know what that is, and I'm the daughter of a maths teacher and did maths up to university. So, and I don't know what reverse percentage is.
Neither do I.
Oh well,
I could explain it, but it's boring. So I won't.
What isn't boring? What would you like to tell us about, Rosie?
Oh goodness, everything. There's so much that's. So first of all, I know that you were interested in some of the, I think a lot of people are surprised by how many professional organisers actually have ADHD.
Wow, I didn't know.
Did you not? Because we're kind of, people with ADHD, we go one of 2 ways. So you can either end up completely overwhelmed by everything, or because you're overwhelmed by everything, you end up being incredibly organized and incredibly structured. And you can either find out sometimes because ADHD runs in families, and you can see it stretching way back in families and way down in families. In my family, my parents were very organized because they had to be in order to keep on top of life. And it's the same with me. I'm sure I might have missed that tiny bit of intro, but I'm sure you said it, but I've got 4 children. They are 14, 12, 10, and about to be 9 this weekend. I've got 8 horses, and I home educate them. So, that's a whole lifestyle choice in itself. We've got 8 horses who we compete over long distance riding. I've got 5 dogs, 3 cats, 2 bunnies, fish, poultry. My husband works full time as well. So it's not like, it's not like there's one of us sort of, and the only way that we can sort of remain, I don't know, not completely buried by this is to be very, very organized. And I use a number of different systems myself to remain organized. I have been using, it's just my bullet journal, but I kind of use a bit of a default diary sort of setting in it. I'm not going to show too much of that because that's got clients' names and things in it, but I set up a default diary every week. And then spending some time with the amazing Sarah Bickers is she Free Your Space? Yeah. She's an ADHD specialist.
Yes, because Sarah Bickers is also a member, and is she not on the APTO committee, or she does something?
I'm not sure
work for us.
I'm not sure she's still, but she was.
I'm currently doing the course with her at the moment on a Thursday. So
yeah,
there are links set up. Yeah.
What's the course you're doing, Elaine?
It's on ADHD. It's just I work with ADHD clients as well, quite a lot, and I worked with ADHD and all autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia in children, and I see that in adults that I go to. So I'm just gone on the course again just for a refresher to see if there's any new techniques that you can use, etc. Because I always think it's always good to learn, to keep learning, you know, and keep up to date with different strategies, things like that. So I've popped onto that course just now. Sorry, Rosie, back to you.
Rosie, I'm going to interrupt because I know you said I could. Clara, could you maybe, because I know you have experience of sort of the autism spectrum disorder and Asperger's and ADHD, could you maybe just give us a definition of what it is? What is ADHD? What is autism? What is Asperger's?
Well, I can give you a definition of autism and Asperger's. That's it's a umbrella, it's a spectrum. So it used to be that you would be high functioning, low functioning, but when my son was diagnosed, he was diagnosed with autism, but by the time my daughter was diagnosed, she was diagnosed with Asperger's. So it's always changing, but what it is that the brain is wired differently. So there's neurotypical, which is somebody who's not on the spectrum. And then there's Asperger's and autism, where the different aspects of the brain, processing, executive functions, organising, social skills are all experienced in a different way and have challenges. And usually with Asperger's, autism, it's not just a single condition. Usually it goes alongside dyspraxia, dyscalculia, ADHD. So for my children, I am dyslexic, so my brain's wired differently anyway, although I'm viewed as neurotypical. My ex-husband, he was diagnosed at 47 as an adult with autism, so they have definitely a differently wired brain. There was no need really for the diagnosis, because I could see clearly from when they were a baby that they were experiencing the world and sensory and social aspects very differently. But Rosie, you could probably speak a bit more about ADHD for a definition.
Yeah, well, I was just sort of thinking, actually, I mean, I'm Asperger's because my two older children are both Asperger's, and I'm also an Aspig. So that's like, and the ADHD came later. Both the ADHD diagnosis, realization of that came later, because one of the real big things that we find with neurodiverse people, and that comes in, you know, ADHD, Asperger's, all these other things, is a real difficulty with executive function. And executive function is the ability to plan. It's the ability to make plans, to organize your thoughts, to organize yourself, which is one of the reasons I use the bullet journal so heavily. And I was going to talk a tiny bit about the Kanban board, which I have literally just set up. And I was about to flash that.
Please do, go for it. Well, tell us what it is again. The what board?
So a Kanban board, usually they're quite big. They're quite big ones. People set them up on a thing, and you use the way Sarah explained it, we use Post-it notes to move things across. So now that doesn't work for me to have a big board, because this is outside of my office. I'm in the house and moving. So I made myself a mini one.
Cool.
This is my little mini board. And here on this is all the things I have to do. It's not all the things, there's actually a few more things I need to add, but the possibility of all the things I could do. Mm-hmm. And here, this little one here, this column here, is the things I'm doing. And then this column here is the things I've done. That's this sort of this week. So this week at the beginning, you know, all this stuff was on this side of the board. And then I'll bring something into the middle, and that's the thing I'm going to focus on. So here I've got to write a piece for Horse Scotland about Trek. I need my nest entry, and I have to do photo management. That's actually quite a large one I need to work at. And then as I do them, I move them across. And the important thing about them is that although I've got all this to do here, this is what I'm focusing on. And I don't worry about what there is to do. And once I've finished, so when I've written this piece for Horse Scotland, I'll move it across. And then I'll find another one, like I might go, okay, now I'm going to clip the dog's claws, and I'll move it in. And you end up, this is according to Sarah, you end up focusing on the flow. And that becomes the really important thing, that rather than worrying about everything you've got to do, and you end up focusing on the flow. And so I use that alongside like the default diary and things.
Gosh, I love that. So you've got like the to do, the what you're doing and what you've done. And I didn't catch, I don't know if our viewers did, what it's called?
Kanban. Kanban.
Kanban.
If you don't like the physical form, I have to have the physical form. I have to be able to physically move stuff. But Trello is a very good. Trello, Trello, is a very, so I've been told when I've said, oh, look what I'm doing. I've had people go, oh, I do that in Trello. And that's, and in fact, one of the KonMari consultants I was speaking to the other day was talking about the way she uses Trello with her clients. So she'll make things to do, and then they'll share it with her clients, and they will and then if her clients are working on something when she's not there, they can use it on, they can tick it off on the Trello board, so she keeps track that way. That was quite organized.
Great. Well, what I'll do for viewers is I'll put those references in the description of today's show. So we've got the Kanban, and I've used Trello before. So Trello is like an app that you can have on your phone for organizing things, and it has worked well. 8 years ago, I just haven't needed it recently. So that's the Kanban and the Trello. Fantastic.
Yeah, we used it a lot. We use that a lot with children, you know, as a visual diary type thing.
Elaine was, just to let people know, Elaine worked a lot in schools teaching and helping. Tell people a little bit about your previous work and how this work fits in.
Yeah, so I was I'm a sports coach really originally, so coaching is my bag really. But when my children were younger, I didn't want to go back to be sort of a PE teacher, so I went in just to support the pupil support, as in pupil support, and so we worked a lot one-to-one with the children, and obviously the children with dyslexia, dyspraxia, things like that. Visual timetables, visual diaries, etc., were the key for these children to be able to function through the day, to know exactly what was going on, what was next, when they'd finished that, etc. And I take that to quite a lot of clients, you know, and on an adult level, just like you've done there, Rosie. And sometimes I send out sort of little posters which to alert them, a sort of a reminder, you know, it's this is what will happen today, or this is what will happen this week, or whatever. And it's a really good technique to keep people motivated, because I'm a motivational coach. So it's about keeping things moving, because sometimes we start something and then we fall off, and then that's it, that's gone. But if we keep the motivation going just by little reminders, just like yourself there, Rosie, by moving things along, it keeps the flow, so-called flow, going. So it's a these are really good techniques, and I would encourage anybody who's struggling at home to have a look at these, or get in contact with any of us about how that we could take that forward for them. Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. See, Clara's got, I really want to ask both Clara and Rosie a question soon, but the idea of sort of flow and how that works, and how we can stop people being so itsy or juggled and overwhelmed, and how we do. And I've always kind of felt that it's about getting the things moving and flowing and getting that rhythm in a, not a way, because it's very disruptive if you're interrupted all the time, either by your own thoughts or by other people, and it can be, it can make you feel very, very unsettled and not at all nice or not at all happy. So it's how we can kind of help support that flow, which I think is wonderful. But as I said to sort of viewers in the beginning, both Clara and Rosie are experts in the Marie Kondo methods. So I want to ask them both. You can choose who wants to go first, but what first really drew you? What was it that made you really want to do that work?
I'm going to let Clara go.
Well, okay. For me, I picked up the book and it just spoke to me. I've had a lifelong interest in tidying, organising, feng shui, how you experience your space, and how other people experience their space in their home environment, within themselves, in their own headsets, their spirituality, their soul, just how we all experience the world. And working for a couple of decades as a senior occupational therapist, I was very aware of when chaotic, lack of structure or lack of organisation, whether it's in the way that the person was thinking or the way that they were living in their home, affected not only them, but it rippled out and affected family members, it affected friendships, it affected health. So for me, when I picked up the Marie Kondo book, it just spoke to me very rapidly, and I did a complete life tidying festival very quickly. And at that time I was unhappy in my marriage, and I used to cycle to work every day thinking, how can I make my life happier? What can I do? And I read the book, and because it really resonated with the idea of sparking joy, it very quickly became clear to me that my relationship wasn't sparking joy for me or my children. So I booked up, I emailed right away to Marie Kondo and said, your first international training, I would like to join it. And as soon as she released the date for New York, that's what I did. I went along and booked the ticket to do that. And I just loved it. I loved connecting with like-minded people. It was like I'd found my tribe. I'd found people that were interested in the same things that I were, and had the same goals of wanting to help people, support people moving through their life journey. So for me, it was just an absolute yes, a very obvious yes for me, and a very obvious transition moving from the health setting where people often were with you because they'd had a traumatic or event, a health crisis, an injury, and they didn't want to be with you. So you were working with them to help them be independent and get home. But now I really enjoy that clients want you to be there. So it's the onus has moved to empowerment to them. So for me, that's why it spoke to me. Rosie, about you?
I was going to say, I came at it from a slightly different angle. Although I think probably like quite a few professional organisers, I used to be a primary school teacher. Before that, I was a geneticist, but that's I've moved on through that. But so my husband works in the oil and gas industry, and we have had frequent international moves. So we would move, and often at quite short notice. And you'd get these sort of things, and it would be like, okay, well, you're going to move. We don't know where you're going to move, and we're not even going to tell you when. Particularly, I remember our move from Milan to India. We were in Milan, and they said, okay, we're going to move you to Trinidad, but first of all, you're going to spend 6 months in the UK. So I went, okay, so all organised for that. On the day, the packers were in my house, packing my house up to move to England for 6 months, and then on to Trinidad, then for 3 years. They went, you're going to India. I was like, okay, all stop. And I was like literally wandering around the house telling the packers, like, no, stop, because I have to change this. So we're doing these frequent moves, and that can be quite anxiety provoking, obviously. And I just wanted to be as organized as I possibly could be. And, so I would declutter, and I'd be like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, let's just. And then I came across Marie's book, and it changed it from going, oh, I don't want that, to, oh, what do I want? I want to have this in my life. I want to have that in my life. And that change from sort of, trying to be, not dragged down by these things, and suddenly the focus on this is the stuff that I love, and this is how I want my life to be. That was just, it was an amazing sort of change, and it just helped us then through all subsequent moves. But I mean, at that point, I was still very much focused on my own family. I had 4 very small children, we were moving regularly. And it wasn't until we came back to the UK, and we moved from England up to Scotland, up to Aberdeen. And then I was helping my mum move up here and working her through the method, because I'm like, well, this is the best way to do it, really, isn't it? And I suddenly thought, wow, this is quite fun. I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy helping other people. And so then I Googled, like, how do you become a Marie Kondo consultant? And it was like, there was a course like 2 months later, and I bagged one of the last spaces, and that was it. And then I've just been working. Initially, I was very much like 1 day a week working. And that was my plan, because I had 4 home-educated children, and I could only really work when my mum was here, or my husband. My husband was working from home. It's all changed for me over lockdown, which I know is something we might talk about anyway with flexibility in lockdown. But initially I was like, literally, I just wanted to go out to work one day a week and help people. And I really, really love my job. It's brilliant. It's got to be, I'm sure you guys agree, it's got to be the best job in the world. And I love seeing people go from that sort of overwhelmed, almost like unable to think because they've just got so much, to just being so free and just going, oh, look, yeah, let's do this. And I love it.
Brilliant. Yeah. And the KonMari method, could somebody explain the KonMari, briefly, the KonMari method for people who maybe haven't touched on it or heard of it before, just in case there's anybody that's watching that hasn't sort of experienced it?
I'll let Rosie explain, because I've explained lots before, so.
Okay, Rosie, go for it. Tell us.
Clara. I was going to be like, well, Clara's been doing this longer than me. Okay, so the KonMari method, very briefly, the first thing you do when you do the KonMari method is to work on you commit to doing it. And then you work on your vision, what you want your life to look like. And that's a really important step. A lot of people try to skip that, but I found that the people who succeed best in the method are the people who have the clearest vision of what they want their life to look like. Then we work in categories rather than in rooms. So we won't just, we won't organize the living room, we'll organize clothes, and we can, cut those right down. We don't have to get your entire wardrobe and put it on the bed. We can literally just look at your sock drawer and go from there. So, and then we do it in a specific order. So we do clothes, books, papers, kimonos, which is everything else, ending with sentimental. The idea is we start with the easiest and we end with the hardest. So by the time we get to the ones that are hardest, you really experience it, knowing what speaks to your heart. And then I realized that the most important thing I did was we make positive choices rather than negative choices. So rather than saying, I don't want that in my life, I don't want that, we say, I want this, I love this, and we handle every single item. You're not allowed to just look at your bookshelf and go, oh yeah, they all spark joy. You need to get them out, and you need to check each book. You don't read it or whatever necessarily, but you check everything individually. And then we leave storage until the end. So we don't worry about fancy storage solutions. We leave it to the end, and because you frequently find you need far less than you might think you otherwise do. And the last thing I want is for people to go out, spend heaps of money on storage, and then not need these solutions. So, and I also say to people, I'm actually trying to save you money. I know this is an upfront cost. I know employing me is an upfront cost, but the benefits are amazing. And, and I hope to save you money, partly by making sure that you know what you've got, so you don't go out. So, you know where that pair of black leggings are. You do not need to go and buy another 20 pairs of them, that sort of thing. But also from changing your relationship with your items. So a lot of people stop necessarily, they really reduce the amount of shopping that they then go and do, because, we focus on other parts, and hopefully then their whole life is a bit better. So then they're not feeling the need to go and shop so much and things like that. Did that make sense?
Rosie,
brilliant. Yes. Yeah,
and
brilliant.
I find that people feel more deeply connected to what they do have, and because they've handled each belonging, they have made that decision to keep it, and at the end, the final decision of where it's being stored, and the ritual around letting things go, thanking the object and saying, well, yes, I did enjoy you, I did think that was a dream I have, but it's not now, and I'm going to let you go, and you can be someone else's dream, or you can be useful to somebody else, and creating that space and that sense of connection to their life. So I found that clients then want to return the items, they want to take care of the items, and they want to take care of themselves. They really feel much more connected and engaged to themselves. And I don't know about you, but I've found definitely the need to be very flexible. I know clothing is the category to start with, and traditionally that's the category that is said to be easiest. But Elaine Mckinlay and I worked with a client who had 4 rooms full of unpacked clothing, and clothing for her was not an easy category. That took a long time to work through for her, because it wasn't just the clothing, it was why she gathered so much clothing, and it was about changing body sizes. And another client perhaps I worked with, where we had to clear the entryway to be able to get into the house and to walk down the hall. So it's not always specific, you work on that category. Sometimes there's preparatory steps to be able to make the home feel more manageable and hospitable to the person, and also working with a bit of lifestyle coaching as well to just help the person shift their mindset. So I don't know if you've found that, Rosie.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. You know, there's the thing about when we look at and I sort of whizzed it really short to try to be as concise as I could. But you know, I mean, the thing about the book, you have to remember when she wrote it, is that she wrote it for, you know, a massive audience, and if it wasn't going to be something the size of Encyclopedia Britannica, then, you know, it by necessity it had to be shortened and quite prescriptive. But you know, when you're a consultant and you learn to you learn all these things as well, and experience. I mean, that's obviously a big thing, and I'm always wanting to find out more from other consultants. I say consultants, that's not what I meant. Other organisers, so from the rest of the KonMari consultant community, obviously, but also from APDO, and the photo manager consultancy, community. I find that I learn so much all the time. I mean, I'm learning, and it's just, So from where I was, you know, even a couple of years ago when I started this to where I am now, I feel like I've just gained so much experience, and it's been so fantastic. And I mean, I work with everybody from people who's just slightly overwhelmed by their life through, I work with people who have hoarding tendencies. I have worked with people with PTSD. You know, it's this massive, and I always say to people, you know, almost invariably, whatever it is you're going to show me, I've seen it. Don't worry about it. You know, I'm not in here to judge. I'm here to help. So yes, but absolutely.
There is no shame. There is no shame. No shame.
A really, really great quote from Thilo Fash.
Yeah, he was on last year. Yeah, Flocker.
And his thing on LinkedIn is fighting clutter with kindness.
Yeah. Love. Or is it fighting clutter with love, or fighting clutter with love with kindness now?
Regardless, one or the other. Yeah. But it's the same sentiment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a question that's come up is if, like, how you've said that it's good to move forward with something positive, like what do you want? What is it that really kind of speaks to you? But I find some of the sort of the saddest people that I've worked with are those that really don't know what they want. You know, find it really struggling. Often I find that there's two ways of dealing with clutter. Like, you go through your clutter to figure out what you want. It's probably buried in there somewhere. You'll have got it, or you know what you want and your clutter is getting in the way. So there's kind of two different types here. So for people that are really struggling to make a decision, that feel kind of overwhelmed by, oh, well, I could want that, I may want that. What ideas do you have to help them, or what's worked? You know, if they're just really, really unsure about what it is that they really do want to keep, or they like everything a little bit, and everything. I've had the comment before, well, everything brings me joy, but it's making you unhappy. I kind of go, so how do we help people get through that?
For me, I use this with adults, with children. I get them to choose an item, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be in the category we're working on. So I get them to choose something that they absolutely love, whether it's a functional reason or whether it's because it speaks to them, the fabric, or it's sentimental. And I get them to hold that item, and I notice with them what their face is doing, what their body's doing, and I say, this is what I'm noticing, and I ask them how they're feeling, and I get them to tune into that, and then I get them to choose an item that they absolutely feel disconnected to. They feel really like they want to get as far away as possible from, and I notice with them how they're feeling, how they're reacting to that, and I ask them to notice and talk about that. And I say to them, well, that's your benchmarks. That is something that is joyful, that you're connected to. And that's something that you really sound like you could be quite happy to let go of. And then I get them, if they're struggling, I get them to place things on a continuum. How close is that to this that you love? And how close is that? And sometimes things are in the middle, and that's homework, or it's something to come back to. But it's amazing how quickly that works with people, how quickly they can hone into it, whether it's a child who's got 20 balls and they can go, well, I love these 5, and these 4 I'm not bothered about, I'm letting them go, and these ones I'm not sure, I have to work through a bit more on. So that's what I find very useful.
I see you nodding, Rosie.
Yeah, pretty much. It's an exercise I do even with people who are pretty sure about what they want and what they don't want. I start with them. I'm like, what's your very, very favorite thing? And then we go through that. And then when we're going through, and there'll be things that they're not sure on, and I will say things, and I'll be watching, and I'll be like, well, you know what what your face is saying about this is that, because that's, and do that. So yeah, and pretty much the same. And then I just had a thought there that I lost halfway through that, and I tried to catch it, and it's gone. I'll probably remember it in a bit, but yeah,
it'll come back if you relax, I'm sure. And
also,
I think what we've come. I'm going to go, Elaine.
Just before we finish there, it's also just like for us going back to our course at the University of Strathclyde, when we research why we have gathered clutter, and we take the students on a journey back to where they thought the clutter started to build, or the items started to build, and why they were maybe storing these items or keeping hold of these items. So that's another aspect to things that's deconstructing all the way back to find out why it all sort of started in the first place. So, that kind of time.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. We do that in the course. So one week we ask people to bring in a piece of clutter, and we look at what clutter is. And the next week we ask people to bring in an object that kind of really is a meaningful object, we call one that really kind of sparks joy. And then you've got those two opposites. And then that means, so I think we've come up so far with 2, for me, really good tips in this episode. The one, I love the Kanban board, what I'm going to do, what I'm doing, what I've done. And then this, trying to figure out how you feel about objects and put them on a spectrum so you can start mapping it out. And then through that, make choices. So yeah, I think that's brilliant. And another thing, Rosie, that I want to go into in a little bit is how you get your household, involved in this. And I know Clara's done that with her family, but you said that, how you're able to run all these things in your life is because everybody plays their part, basically. Everybody plays their part in it. So we can talk about that first, or Elaine, do you want to talk about, we've got National Organising Week coming up as well.
Yeah, we've got
National Organising Week first, and I'll see if I can flash it up and share screen on the APCO website whilst you're telling people about that, and we'll give Rosie a bit of a break. That thought that you had, Rosie, might come up. The one that you were like, I really need to share that, so it might come up. Over to you, Elaine.
Yes, so next week is National Organising Week, the 2nd to the 8th of November. And as professional organisers throughout the country, we are all doing various bits and pieces to highlight that or to help people. So I think Clara and I are donating some time to clients this week. And that's something that we like to do. I like to produce some little wee mini videos to pop on my website. ABTO are producing blogs, which I think that Rosie is involved in. Each day there's different things coming up. So I think popping onto the ABTO website is a really good idea if anybody's interested in doing that. But it's something that's just to keep us going again, the flow, keeping the flow, getting us ready for the winter. It's a good active week for us to look at organising. So there, Zem's got the website up. The Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers, and you can pop on to find an organiser or the events. There we are, National Organising Week. And from that, there we are, 2nd to the 8th of November. And there's all the different things. So Monday, it's where do I start? Tuesday, organising. Oh, she's moving so fast that I've lost it here. Organising your home in the current times. Show us your workspace. And what's Thursday? 10 organising products, and finally on Friday, what is in an organizer's toolkit. So there's some nice interesting things there, some ideas as well for storage, etc. But the blogs will be, you know, quite interesting for you to have a look at. So that's National Organising Week, 2nd to the 8th of November. You're on mute, I think, Zem, are you on mute?
Rosie, do you want to talk just a bit about your blog that you're doing on Tuesday, that yours is coming up for Tuesday next week?
Yeah, so I was asked to write a blog about organising for the current times, and one of those things, you know, trying to be resilient and flexible in this. I won't go completely into the blog, or there'll be no point of people checking on it. But I'm giving tips on how to stay organised during, and just how to say. I mean, resilience was the word we came back to again and again with this, and this is physical resilience and emotional resilience as well. So I think Elaine was saying that she might be talking about some of the preparations you need to make for winter and things. And, you know, I live in deepest, darkest Aberdeenshire, so we have to be ready to be cut off kind of at a minute's at a day's notice if we're going to have heavy snow. So we have to be quite organized for that, really. And I also spoke about, you know, the physical resilience and a little bit about the emotional resilience, but I also have spoken about the fact that we're at home and we're working at home. So when we started working from home, obviously I couldn't go out and work into people's houses, so I took my entire business online, and I was my husband had the big desk in our bedroom because he works on several big monitors, you know. He can't hot desk, and I was hot desking around the children's rooms, you know, trying to find a quiet space. And at one point my children, they were like, really? I was like, I'm just going to be in your room, darling, for the next hour. They were like, oh, get out my room, mummy. So in the end, I actually ended up converting a linen cupboard, and I had this tiny little linen cupboard that I made, and it was great. It was brilliant, but it was just a tiny little space that was mine that I could go into. I had my ring light, so I could, you know, could be seen. And then later on, I ended up converting. I've got this a pretty good quality shed that was already in the garden, and we've insulated it, we've painted it. I've got 4G Wi-Fi out here, so because our broadband is absolutely useless, so we have 4G Wi-Fi in the house, which is the big solid one, and then I have this little wee one out here that I can use, and they're on different. So the one in the house I think is on 3, and the one out here is on Vodafone. The idea being that if one network goes down, then we've got another, you know, because my husband has to work online and I'm working online too, although I'm also working in-house. And I'm back to working in-house. But yeah, so we spoke a lot, and I've invested quite a lot in this over this time, in things like, so I've learned how to become a photo manager, because that's something I can do without going into people's houses if we're locked down further. I've done more work on ADHD and just things like that. So kind of business resilience, I guess, it was something else I touch on that blog. So 3 different areas.
Thank you.
Again. Yes.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm just loving this show, really. I think it's really fantastic how we're touching on everything: ADHD, autism, changing your setup, how we're responding to the new situation of moving into living with coronavirus. To be fair, you know, how we in the new normal is living with the need to change and be really quite flexible. And obviously, Rosie, from your experience of it being sort of thrust upon you in your sort of with your husband's career, you know, having to move, you know, you're a sort of an expert at being able to change at literally the last minute.
It's quite hard though, especially with when you've got the sort of brain, the way you've got ADHD and Asperger's, you can end up with very, very tunnel thinking. and it can be really inflexible thinking. So it can be quite hard, you know, and it's something I've had to learn. It's not something that's come naturally. But that's the organising myself has been a way of dealing with the anxiety of not knowing, and that's where I came into being very organised. It was a way of coping with anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting, because that was why I think I headed towards, like, at quite a young age, into really loving organising my space, because I would have a habit of kind of losing things, and then I'd get a row from my mum, and I just didn't want to have the row, and because it made me so anxious. I was like, okay, I don't enjoy anxiety. This is not a good feeling. What am I going to do about it? And so I've kind of gone through life going, I don't enjoy that feeling. What am I going to do about it? And I found that for me, just having fewer objects and looking after them, I enjoy looking after things. I just do. I enjoy it, because, and having fewer means that I've got less responsibilities, and that I know, because I know where things are. So even though I am, as far as I'm aware, neurotypical, it's the same thing. It's like I don't enjoy anxiety, and this is what, at an early age, was my strategy to deal with it. And I've always hated the fact that typically in women's clothes there are no pockets, and you know, it's like, where do I put things? But I love it when I have trousers with pockets, and I know my wallet's in my right pocket, you know, my face mask now is in my left, you know, it's sort of, that is where it is.
Yeah.
So I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, and the other thing was that pushed me towards this was so my parents also moved around the world a lot, and I was sent to boarding school in the UK, you know, and I would go back at the beginning of term and not see my parents again till the end of term. And this was, of course, very anxiety provoking for a small child. And again, the way I would get around that is that my mum would always say, well, I was always packed, I was always ready. Because in order to deal with the anxiety of going back to school, I'd have everything packed and organised, and I'd be ready to go. Not because I wanted to go, but, you know, as a way of dealing with that anxiety.
Yeah. And I bet in that situation as well, meaningful objects would have been really important to you, because you'd have had objects from your home that would be in your packing trunk, whatever, that would stay with you. So
my teddy bear.
Exactly, your teddy bear. I just fixed my nephew's teddy bear. I kind of really enjoy fixing things as well. Clara or Elaine, you need to go. Come on.
We have, just before we go, we have influenced some viewers here. I'm just checking the phone here. And
excellent.
Chrissy has said that she used the Kanban technique when she worked in manufacturing. So she hasn't used it for decluttering or organising. So she's thinking of using it. And also that she started to think about moving to the seaside, because she's prioritising where she wants to live now. So and that might be that she might take herself forward in that way now, because she's having a look and she's kind of reevaluated her life. So thanks for your comments. Thanks for your comments on that, Chrissy.
Yeah, go Chrissy. That sounds two excellent ideas.
Jocelyn's also saying that she really likes your attitude, Rosie, and she's going to go back and watch this show from the beginning. And she's also saying, why do designers assume women don't need pockets? She always wants trousers, jackets with pockets. I love it when I get a dress or a skirt with pockets. That's just I get pockets put in. Happy. I'm winning at life when I've got a skirt and a dress with pockets.
My mum's quite a good seamstress, and I've made her put pockets in some of my dresses.
Excellent.
My mummy at the age of 42.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you, Rosie, for coming on our show. Elaine or Clara, do you have any sort of last questions you would like to interrogate Rosie with? Or Rosie, did that thought come up yet? Like what you had to say? No, it might come up later. You can share it on the blog.
Yeah.
I would just like to say thanks very much, Rosie, for coming on. It's lovely to see you again. I haven't seen you since I met you when you were doing your Marie Kondo training at the first London seminar. So
I'm always sad if I go to something and you're not there.
Oh.
We're keeping her here in Glasgow. You can't have her.
You can't have her.
She missed the ACTO conference. conference and the Scottish meetup. Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure. And Elaine, any last words?
We have another ABTO member next week coming on, Jane Zhang Rice. She is going to talk a little bit about her business over in Fife, but also that she does a bit of Feng Shui. So we're going down that route next week, having a look at some things like that. So it's something a little bit different next week if you're interested in that. So I'd love to have a coffee with you in our homes to yours.
It's all about the flow. It's all about the flow and tea drinking.
And tea drinking.
Big fan of tea drinking. Well, cheers, everybody. Oh.